Hello and welcome to another video. Today's topic will be restoring old oxidized opaque headlights and direction signal lights as well. When working on car electrics, I like to disconnect the negative battery terminal. Now, using 10mm socket, let's unscrew the two upper bolts. Pull the direction signal light out and unplug the connector. Now this light assembly can be completely removed. Unscrew this lower bolt. Stick a piece of cloth underneath the headlight assembly if you are afraid to scratch the paint. Wiggle the assembly around. Unplug the three connectors. And now the assembly can be pulled out. Do the same for the other side. Here are some tools we will be using today. It's some rubbing alcohol, or alternatively you can use ethanol, which I am using currently, some soapy water, some 800, 1000 and 2000 grit sandpaper, some buffing compound, a buffing disc and an electric screwdriver. Now spray the headlight assemblies with soapy water, wipe them off. And wipe the assemblies off with alcohol. Now let's start with the 800 grit sandpaper. If the oxidation on your headlight assembly is even more severe than in this case, you can even start using the 500 or 600 grit sandpaper. Sand for around 1 to 2 minutes. Wipe the assembly off. put the 800 grit sandpaper aside and repeat the step with 1000 grit sandpaper. Do so for another 1 to 2 minutes. Don't forget to wipe off the assembly in between. Now put 1000 grit sandpaper aside and let's move to the final step, 2000 grit sandpaper. Repeat the wet sanding for another 1 to 2 minutes. Now put the sandpaper aside. Do some final wiping off. And again wipe off with some alcohol. When wiping off with alcohol, this opaque haziness might seem to go away, but as soon as alcohol dries, you will see this haze come back, which is normal. Now let's use the electric screwdriver, the buffing disc and some compound. Any buffing compound works equally good. So spread the compound over the assembly and start buffing. Perform the procedure for another minute. Wipe off with some clean cloth. Right here in the corner you can still see some haziness. Therefore, we'll repeat the buffing procedure for another minute. Once again wipe off with some clean cloth and you are good to go. Now let's do a side-by-side comparison. I think by now it's pretty obvious which headlight assembly has been restored. Pretty good results. Now, since the direction indicator light looks pretty good, we'll just do some quick buffing. No sanding required here. First of all, let's wipe off after spraying the assembly with some soapy water. Apply some compound. And do the buffing for another minute. Wipe off with some clean cloth as well, and you are good to go. Now let's put everything back together. It's basically the same as this assembly, just in the opposite direction. So if you're rather bored, you can just skip this part. I'm using some medium strength thread locker, not for the fastening reasons in this case, but rather to prevent the threads from rusting. Screw the bolts back in and make them hand tight. And here's the final result.